was probably, and again, okay, so let's stop giving the Ravens their flowers and let's get to quickly Brock Purdy, because I think it's important that we kind of now acknowledge him. And this was the title of the show, so hopefully nobody got bored with what I was saying. And let's get to the comments a little bit first. So let's see here. We got Carcast in here. Hopefully you're still here. He says, yo, what's good, Carcast? David McNiner, go subscribe to his channel. David McNiner says, what up, Ben? They should go to YouTube and sack that like. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, guys, if you're watching on Twitter, that's great. But hitting a like, go over to YouTube, search up the Camper Report, and hit a like. That would be great. Grandizer says, Benny, what went wrong yesterday with the 49ers? Purdy's play was poor, or did the Ravens just call a good defensive game plan? I think it was a little bit of both. I think Purdy freaked out, but I think the Ravens are just, from top to bottom, coaching-wise, they're really good. Discipline-wise, they're really good. They have playmakers all over the defense. You have Brandon Stevens, who I had never really, he's underrated, but he's really good, their cornerback. You have Marlon Humphrey. You have their safety. I could look him up. He's really good too. I want to look up his safety, the safety. I know what he's called. Hold on. I'm looking it up. They have Marlon Humphrey, their corner, but they also have a really, really good safety who's probably one of the best in the league, I'd say. Ravens. I mean, they also have Roquan Smith. Can't forget about him. Kyle Hamilton. There we go. Kyle Hamilton. So, I mean, just playmakers all over the field. And I think it was, I'll get it. So let's get into Purdy. Hold on. I'll get into Purdy in just a second. David McNiner says, we threw the ball 48 times, ran it 12. That's not 49er football. I will get into that. Did the 49ers go from one of the healthiest teams to having a lot of key injuries? Yes, they did. They lost 3 offensive linemen. I mean, some of those guys will come back. It wasn't significant injuries, but still, 3 offensive linemen. They're still dealing with the loss of Eric Armstead, which, by the way, I forgot to add this in as a topic, but the 49ers signed Sebastian Joseph Day, who I didn't even know he was a free agent, but was a very good defensive lineman a few years ago for the Chargers and Rams, and he's a defensive tackle. And so this kind of indicates to me, us signing him kind of indicates to me that maybe the Eric Armstead injury is not is more serious than we all thought it was, which isn't good because he's a key part. And that's another reason why I think we lost this game is Eric Armstead was not in, and it was showing. The Ravens, a big thing, especially early in the game, they established the run, and they were able to run it up the middle very consistently. Real quick, I need to go and open my window. It's getting a little hot in here. Hold on, I'll be right back. That's better. But I mean, I think Eric Armstead, the loss of him is quite hard. Like very. It's a tough loss because, I mean, people were saying, Javon Kinlaw's doing well. I mean, not in the run game. I don't see how he's doing well. Not in the run game, at least. He is not doing very good. The Ravens were running it at will yesterday. So, but let's get to one more comment. Please give the Ravens more flowers. Zay Flowers. So that kind of that's like a wordplay. Zay Flowers. Please give the Ravens their flowers. That's a little bit of a wordplay there. But yeah, so let's get to some more let's get to Brock Purdy. What's next for Brock Purdy? I was watching Haberman and Middlecoff. Haberman, was it Middlecoff? I think it was Middlecoff, was talking and basically said the reason why he thinks the reason why Brock Purdy got kind of benched at the end of that game is, first thing, they were down by a lot. Second thing, he was half banged up. And third thing, it's like, there's no real reason why you should put him back in there. I don't think Brock Purdy's going to get benched moving forward. I mean, he had one bad game, but Sam Darnold, I don't think would be any better than Brock Purdy at this point in the season. So do not bench Brock Purdy. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But let's get into the first interception that he threw, because I think that was the worst, most abysmal one. I mean, if you watch, I apologize for the background noise. If you watch, hold on a second. Let me mute it. Somebody is playing very loud music, kind of being a little bit of a disturbance outside. So let me go close the window again. Anyway, golly, I apologize for the pause. But I'm gonna get back to it real quick. So Brock Purdy said on his first interception that, if you watch the press conference after the game, after the fact, I mean, he said that he saw Deebo Samuel kind of flashing, and he saw Deebo Samuel open, and he thought he could fit it in through that tight window. And then you obviously saw Hamilton, just the safety, the Ravens safety, just pick it off. And so I don't know. I feel like on that throw, it's Brock Purdy's made risky throws all year that he's just kind of gotten lucky on, or just haven't been picked off. But you can't do that against this Ravens team. You really can't. Um, this Ravens team, because a lot of teams that they've played in the past, defense no defense in the league is more disciplined than the Ravens defense. The difference between Brock Purdy, this season to this game is, I feel like he hasn't played as much of an opportunistic, as much of a disciplined defense as the Ravens. The Ravens, if you make any sort of mistake, they are going to kill you. And that's what they did in this game. That's what they ultimately did in this game. Brock Purdy would make mistakes and they capitalized off of it. That's kind of the end thing. And I will say that not all of it was his fault, because yes, he was making interceptions, and yes, he maybe made a few poor decisions, but I don't think the game plan was right as well. You saw the Ravens went to a lot of play action. They went to a lot of RPO to kind of confuse the 49ers defense in this game. The Niners also kind of earlier in that game went to play action, and that's not their system. They're not good under play action, especially against how a high caliber defensive line like the Ravens. Because what happens in a play action? You fake the run. You have to have good protection for long periods of time in play action. And the 49ers don't have that. They just don't have a good offensive line to protect. And so they started off early in this game with play action and kind of faking and kind of using the run game to trick the Ravens to set up the pass, but they weren't able to protect long enough for Brock Purdy to really even think about throwing the ball. And so what I saw is Brock Purdy would fake it to whoever, McCaffrey, and he'd drop back, and there would be no time to even throw the ball. He'd panic, and he'd throw an interception. And it's how good the Ravens defense is. It's how good their blitzes, like I was saying earlier, is. It's just really how good their team is. But the 49ers kind of, I feel like, had a little bit of the wrong scheme in this game. So, I mean, it goes back to offensive line woes. My brother was telling me, I think in the playoffs, the 49ers are going to get exposed. My kind of thought on that is, yes, I think they will. I think they'll have issues, but I do not think there is a defense better than the Ravens in the NFC. So, and I don't think there's a team that matches up as well with the 49ers than the Ravens do. And so, as far as the 49ers in the playoffs getting exposed, I don't think they will in the NFC, because all the top teams, the Eagles aren't great. We know that already. They almost lost to the Giants yesterday. The Cowboys, we've blown them out. The Cowboys aren't big, aren't strong up front. They don't have I mean, they have Micah Parsons, but their defensive line isn't super elite. Their play calling is terrible on the offensive side, in pressure situations. So the Cowboys, I'm not afraid of. We'll get to the Lions though. The Lions, I'm like, I don't know. The Lions could do something, and the Rams. I feel like the Rams is another team. I'm gonna actually get into teams that. So I mean, later on in the show, I'll get into teams that will surprise other teams in the playoffs. So stay tuned for that. But my thing is Niners will do well in the playoffs. I don't think they get exposed by anyone in the actual NFC. Now, if they face the Ravens again in the Super Bowl, maybe watch out. But Ravens are definitely favorites to win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, implications for 1 seed. Let's talk about real quick what's next for the 49ers just as far as the 1 seed goes. They have to win out. The Niners have to win out. Basically, they still own the tiebreaker over the Cowboys and Eagles. Eagles are tied with them record-wise, but they still own the tiebreaker. And I think winning the next 2 games, Commanders versus Rams, is easy enough. But I will say, if like I said before, if we don't have enough offensive linemen, a good enough offensive lineman on the field, who knows if we win, especially versus the Rams. I'm not as afraid with the Commanders, but I am more afraid with the Rams because the Rams are playing good football. They're playing good football. They're running the ball well. Matthew Stafford is finally healthy, so he's playing really well. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. Aaron Donald is still Aaron Donald. Their defense isn't great, but they are very disciplined. I'll get into that later. And they're a very scrappy defense, very opportunistic defense. So the Rams could kind of be that week 18 game's going to be 18 games going to be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I really don't think so. Because if you remember week 2 earlier in the season, the 49ers started, they played the Rams in SoFi. And the Niners, they were actually down against the Rams at one point in that game. I think at one point, I believe it was 17-10. Rams were winning. And then the second half, the Rams completely collapsed. But what I'm trying to say is the Rams, they're good. And yes, we have their number, but they're going to give us a fight. So if we're not ready for that game, then we could very, very well slip up. But so could the Eagles. The Eagles play the Cardinals and Giants next. And the Giants almost just beat them. So, and the Eagles, who knows? They could lose to the Cardinals. Like right now, they're a huge question mark. But you also have the Lions as well. The Lions are tied with the Niners, but the Niners have a better the Niners have a better NFC record, and so they have the tiebreaker over the Lions because the Niners are 9-1. The Niners have only lost 1 game in the NFC, and the Lions have lost, I think, 3. So if the Lions win out and the 49ers lose the next 1 out of the 2 and the Eagles lose the next 1 out of the 2, then the Lions are all of a sudden the first seed. So the Niners, it's very important that they win against the Rams, which I don't think is going to be a cakewalk. I really don't. So that's kind of my 30-minute spiel on the 49ers. Now we're going to get to a little bit more of the NFL talk. So obviously all you Niners fans might not want to listen to these next parts because I'm going to be talking more NFL-wise about